Welcome back now. In Brazil, 990 more people have died from the new coronavirus in the past 24 hours, raising the total to nearly 56,000, while in Mexico, 719 people have died in a day, taking the toll to nearly 26,000. Worldwide, the death count has crossed 493,000, with over 9.7 million cases. More details in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic has picked up speed in the Americas, affecting the rest of the world at the same time. Colombia's President Ivan Duque has called Venezuela a public health time bomb. He says the lack of reliable information about his neighbor's coronavirus outbreaks is a worry. Venezuela has reported just 4,600 infections and 39 deaths, while Colombia has recorded around 80,600 cases and more than 2,600 deaths. Meanwhile, the U.S. has reported the highest single-day increase in COVID-19 cases, with over 45,000 testing positive overnight. The U.S. infection disease chief Dr. Anthony Fauci has warned younger people that they can be posing a risk to older people who may be more vulnerable to the virus.
The overwhelming majority now of people getting infected are young people, likely the people that you see in the clips and in the paper who are out in crowds enjoying themselves, understandably. No blame there, understandably. But the thing that you really need to realize that when you do that, you are part of a process. So if you get infected, you will infect someone else who clearly will infect someone else. We know that happens.
The European Union plans to bar travelers from the US, Brazil, and Russia due to a continued surge in coronavirus infections in the three countries. While the UK says it will lift its 2-week quarantine rule for visitors arriving from some low-risk countries after pressure from tourism sector. The World Health Organization says it will deliver 2 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccine to the world by the end of 2021.
It's clear that to bring COVID-19 under control and to save lives, we need effective vaccines, diagnostics, and therapeutics in unprecedented quantities and at unprecedented speed. And it's clear that because all people are at risk of COVID-19.
Meanwhile, mainland China has reported 21 new cases of coronavirus.
Meanwhile, India has reported its biggest single-day surge in the coronavirus cases, adding 18,500 new infections. The South Asian country has now over 500,000 infections, with nearly 16,000 deaths due to the pandemic. The Health Ministry said 385 more people died from the coronavirus in the past 24 hours. Experts say the pandemic is not expected to peak in India for several more weeks, and the number of cases could surpass 1 million before the end of July. The virus has particularly hit India's densely populated cities, while there are now major concerns for New Delhi, which has overtaken Mumbai with nearly 80,000 cases. Some state governments in India are now considering to impose new lockdowns. In Pakistan, the COVID-19 death toll has crossed 4,000, with 74 fatalities in the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry said over 3,100 people tested positive for the virus overnight, bringing the total to nearly 200,000. That's it so far. Nearly 87,000 people have recovered, while over 2,700 remain critical. The ministry said about 108,000 cases are active in the country. It said the province of Punjab has reported the most cases, with 56 infections in a day, I beg your pardon. The southern province of Sindh recorded 1,205 infections, while the capital Islamabad registered 120 infections since yesterday. Pakistan has welcomed U.S. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's statement over the restoration of rights of Kashmiris. In a statement, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Pakistan has gradually shared its narrative to the world community over Kashmir. Yesterday, Biden asked India to take necessary steps to restore the rights of Kashmiris. He also expressed disappointment over the Citizenship Amendment Act and the implementation of the NRC in Assam. Pakistan says it's ready to reopen the Kartarpur corridor on 29th of June on the occasion of the death anniversary of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. In a statement, the Foreign Office said Pakistan has invited India to work out necessary SOPs to ensure adherences to the health guidelines. The spokesperson said the corridor was temporarily closed on March 16 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. KARTARPUR corridor was inaugurated in November last year on the 550th birth anniversary of Baba Guru Nanak. The Sikh community all over the world immensely appreciated Pakistan for this landmark initiative. Now, Libya's UN-backed government has called for imposing sanctions on foreign mercenaries over intervention in the country. In a tweet, Libya's UN envoy Tahir al-Soni said the US and EU must take firm action and freeze their assets as any terrorist organization. He said the UN Security Council failed to sanction mercenaries like the Russian Wagner Group and others who violate the world resolutions. On Friday, Libya's National Oil Corporation said Russian and Sudanese mercenaries entered the Sharara oil field to block the oil output. The US Embassy in Libya condemned the occupation of the oil field by the Wagner Group. Oil fields and export facilities are mostly located in territory controlled by Khalifa Haftar's Libyan National Army. Iraq says it has killed 24 ISIS militants in a security operation backed by airstrikes in Saladin province. The army said it carried out a two-day operation against the ISIS militants in the mountainous Al-Khanoga area of the province. It said the operation resulted in the killing of 16 militants in the first day and 8 others in the second. The military said Iraqi and coalition raids destroyed a number of hideouts and several caves and tunnels. The operation came as ISIS militants have intensified their attacks on the security forces, including Hashd Shabi forces. ISIS gained full control in Mosul, Saladin and Anbar provinces and seized territories in Diyala and Kirkuk provinces in 2014. But Iraqi security forces managed to regain control in subsequent years. Now, Israel says its warplanes have targeted multiple locations in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli Defense Ministry says it struck Hamas infrastructure and military posts in retaliation to a rocket fire. No casualties have been reported so far. The rockets were fired a day after Hamas warned of violence over Israeli plans to annex parts of the occupied West Bank. Meanwhile, hundreds of Palestinians demonstrated in the West Bank and Gaza Strip against Israel's annexation plans. Clashes broke out between the demonstrators and the Israeli forces in several West Bank towns and villages. The protesters were carrying banners reading, "Palestinians are sticking to their land and reject the annexation." Russia says it has intercepted 3 US spy planes over the Black Sea and escorted them away from its borders. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said Su-30s detected US aircraft while approaching the Russian borders over the neutral waters. The ministry said the Russian fighter jets approached the air objects at a safe distance. It said the US planes immediately changed the direction from the border of Russia. The statement said the flight of the Russian aircraft took place in strict accordance with international rules for the use of airspace. It said after completing the task, the Russian fighters returned safely to the home airfield. Germany says it will continue constructive dialogue with Russia as Moscow has strategic influence in Syria and Libya. In an interview, Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel said there are good reasons to maintain talks with Russia. Merkel said countries like Syria and Libya are Europe's immediate neighbor, where Russia has great strategic influence. She said Germany and Europe should continue to strive for cooperation with Russia. At the same time, Merkel accused Moscow of hybrid warfare, saying it has become a Russian behavior pattern. Moscow has consistently rejected West's accusations of destabilizing activities. Russia says the US media false information about Moscow and Kabul has led to direct threats against the Russian diplomat. This comes after a leading US paper published a report accusing Moscow of being the mastermind behind American soldiers' killing in Afghanistan. In a tweet, Russia's embassy in Washington said US is spreading lies using baseless and anonymous accusations. The embassy said the authors of the article lack information on cooperation between Russia and the US on the Afghan peace process. It said Russia demands the US to take effective measures to fulfill their diplomatic obligations under the Vienna Convention. The Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government has strongly criticized the U.S. Senate's Hong Kong Autonomy Act. In a statement, a government spokesperson urged the U.S. Congress to stop interfering in Hong Kong's internal matters. The spokesperson rejected the sanctions, saying the move will harm the bilateral relations between Hong Kong and Washington. He said no other state or legislature has a right to intervene in the implementation of a country two systems principle in the territory. In its response to the allegations of persecuting dissent, the spokesperson said Hong Kong has an independent criminal judicial system. Early on Friday, the U.S. Senate unanimously approved legislation laying out sanctions on Chinese officials who undermine Hong Kong's autonomy. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Washington is imposing visa curbs on Chinese officials over the obstruction of Hong Kong's freedom. In a statement, Pompeo called on Beijing to honor its commitment to allow Hong Kong a high degree of autonomy. He said the U.S. visa restrictions apply to current and former Communist Party officials who are believed to be responsible for undermining the city's autonomy. Pompeo said China is pressuring local authorities to disqualify pro-democracy electoral candidates. Responding, Chinese embassy spokeswoman Fang Hong said Beijing opposes Washington's wrongful decisions. She urged the U.S. to immediately correct its mistakes and stop interfering in China's domestic affairs. Washington's announcement comes in response to Beijing's move to impose new security legislation on Hong Kong. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper has urged the NATO members to meet a target of spending 2% of their GDP on defense. The United States sought the target first in 2019. Speaking ahead of a meeting with NATO Secretary General, Esper said member states need to do much more to ensure collective security. He said the two leaders will discuss issues ranging from Afghanistan to the coronavirus response, while NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said they will also discuss the U.S. military presence in Europe. He said the issue is on the forefront, particularly in respect of Washington's plans to reduce presence in Germany. Earlier, President Donald Trump announced reducing U.S. troops in Germany following his criticism of Berlin for not spending more on defense. More news coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Now, Ireland's Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and the Green Party have agreed to form a new coalition government, ending a 4-month-long stalemate. Fianna Fáil leader Michael Martin is set to be elected as the Prime Minister at a special meeting of Parliament later today. The general elections were held in February, but no party received a majority and the pandemic halted the coalition talks. The two larger parties needed the support of the Greens to have a working majority in the Parliament. Earlier in June, the parties agreed to elect Martin as a Prime Minister for 2.5 years and Fine Gael leader Leo Varadkar for the remaining term. In a tweet, Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson congratulated Ireland on the new government. The leaders of Sudan, Ethiopia and Egypt have agreed that the East Baba will not start filling its Nile dam without reaching an agreement within 2 weeks. In a statement, Cairo and Khartoum said Ethiopia will return to talks aimed at reaching an accord on use of Nile River's waters. Ethiopia's water minister said the three countries will agree on a deal to fill the dam in 2 to 3 weeks. This comes after a video conference of Africa Union chaired by South Africa on the matter. African Union Chairman Musa Faki Mohammed said the leaders have agreed to an AU-led process to resolve outstanding issues. Turkey says it has killed 3 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in an operation in southeastern Hakkari province. In a statement, the Interior Ministry said the militants were killed in the Kavakli region in the air-backed operation. The ministry said the operation is underway in the region. It said Turkey will continue to destroy weapons caches and shelters used by the terrorists. Turkey holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year conflict. The Mexican authorities have found another 14 bodies in the north-central state of Zacatecas as the gang violence worsens in the country. In a statement, the state government said the investigation is underway to determine the cause of death. Earlier, 16 people were found dead in Mexico's western state of Sinaloa. The state officials said the people were killed in gunfights that took place in the violence-plagued region controlled by drug lord El Chapo Guzman. Meanwhile, Mexico City's chief of police has been shot and wounded in the assassination attempt. The chief blamed Jalisco New Generation Cartel for the attack, in which 2 of his bodyguards were killed. Mexico City's Attorney General's office said police have arrested 12 suspects in connection with the assassination. In the United States, a federal court has ordered the release of migrant children held with their parents by the American Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. The ruling applies to children held for more than 20 days at 3 family detention centers in Texas and Pennsylvania. Citing the spread of the virus in 2 of the 3 facilities, the judge said there was no time to take half measures. The court set a deadline of July 17 for children to either be released with their parents or sent to family sponsors. The court said the agency was detaining 124 children on top of around 1,000 children in custody of the Health and Human Services Department. Meanwhile, an appeals court said the White House lacked authority to divert $2.5 from the Pentagon to build part of the Mexico border wall. Amnesty International has started a petition to draw the world's attention on the plight of Rohingya refugees amid the pandemic. The petition addresses the governments of the US, Australia, Bangladesh and Indonesia. In a statement, it said the rights of Rohingya continue to be violated without constant international support and responsibility sharing. The group said some refugees, including women, have been victims of harassment and coercive quarantine measures. Over 750,000 refugees fled Myanmar to Bangladesh after a military crackdown on the minority Muslim community in 2017. NASA's decade-long mission observing the sun from an orbiting satellite has produced a stunning time-lapse video. For over 10 years, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory has watched the sun using an array of instruments. It took the 425 million high-resolution images every 0.75 seconds from its orbit around Earth. In a video released on NASA's website, the 10-year time-lapse condensed into 61 minutes showing the outermost parts of the sun's atmosphere. NASA says these images are taken at the extreme ultraviolet wavelength of 17.1 nanometers to capture the outer atmosphere. It says the video shows the rise and fall of the solar cycle and other notable events such as transiting planets and solar eruptions. In China, 3 people have died while 12 others are missing in torrential downpours in southwestern Sichuan province. Officials said the county of Mianing recorded unprecedented rainfall of 211 millimeters. The local government said 1 villager died and 9 others were missing in the Damavu village after a fresh storm. Elsewhere, a car and a minivan veered off the road and plunged into a river, killing 2 people and leaving 3 others missing. The flooding also damaged a section of the national highway. County officials say the rescue efforts are underway while over 7,000 residents have been relocated to safe shelters. Now let's have a look at the weather updates. Well, that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.